Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Mardek, and of course last time we were talking to the shaman over here, and we figured out that there might in fact be a way to that lost monastery that Vern is looking for. However, in order to get there, it seems as though we may need to actually go through Dreamwood, because we might have sparked the shaman's memory about how to get there, and well, the dream world is of course the place of memories and dreams and whatnot, so we might find... But first we're going to find ourselves in a battle, of course. And this guy snuck in an attack before I was ready. Hold on! Give us just a second here. Let's take another look at the Carpioneros. Resistance is at least a little bit for all of the elements except for light and darkness. So, also 50% resistance means that, say, something like Solar Flare would seem to be awfully effective. Definitely is in fact enough to take it out in one hit. Okay, so if we take a look at our map now, we will find that previously there was some kind of doorway over here, however it was blocked. Now there's a path that is conveniently finding its way through the forest. Sure, we'll head in over here. And let's take a look at the map over here, and yeah, I mean, it's some kind of open area, 3 chests, we'll make sure to pick those up along the way, but looks like just more Dreamwood. Are the enemies any different? Uh-oh. You know how I feel about this one. Mardek is safe, Solar is safe, Donovan actually outright eluded the spell, so all in all, I think bullet dodged. Vern, of the people to get confused, is probably one of the more dangerous ones because he hits fairly hard. Although I do think we saw that using things that heal party members can be enough to remove that confusion, and oh man, except the Pixie goes next. Trying to think of who could theoretically remove that confusion before Vern actually takes a turn, and the answer is probably best for that to be Solar. However, Pixie could theoretically turn right around and do it again. I don't think Solar is going to have enough damage to take out the Pixie in one turn with, say, a Solar Flare, because although it is light elemental and the Pixie is not as resistant to light, it does still have 16 magic defense, which is pretty darn high. So I think it's going to take a few rounds of attacks against it. And yeah, I think we do need to play this one a little bit patiently. We don't have Elwian with the Dolores Dirge, which was so effective. Does this remove the confusion? It did not, notably. Okay, so that also did not do the primary thing we wanted it to do. Vern is cursed, and it doesn't really matter if he's not going to do anything right now. So, Donovan can only deal fire damage, and the Pixie is completely immune to fire. Did we put on Soul Strike for his physical attacks, or could he theoretically deal non-elemental damage with that attack? Might be the way to go. I think it's probably best to actually attack and then deliberately miss the offensive reaction, unless he happens to have any items like, say, 5 remedies? Could remove all the statuses on Vern right now, which I think that is probably best. Remedies are, of course, valuable, but to get rid of both of those right before Vern's turn, I think is big, because Vern does have access to light skills. They would be physical rather than spells, so that means we'd be testing the Pixie's physical defense rather than magic defense. A little bit better, aside from the whole 60% evasion chance thing. So, I think if we Smite Evil, this Pixie is pretty evil, let's be honest. Okay, and so then Mardek, I think it's the same deal. If you can land a hit, that would be huge. Oh, but you can't. Okay, so Pixie goes next, regenerates some HP. Fortunately, is using a spell that doesn't confuse anyone else. Solar Flare, fingers crossed, might have enough damage here. It does. Okay. So yes, we saw that this is going to be considerably more difficult to take out the Pixies with no Elwian. But it is still possible. Donovan masters +2 strength. Let's take a look then at what we might be able to put on instead of the Ruby. It is giving a passive 3 strength just by equipping it alone, and having the skill on top of that means an additional 5 strength for Donovan, so he's becoming a fairly strong physical attacker with this setup. However, although that is tempting to keep that on, there are probably still many other skills that we could have him learn if we were to put something else in place of this Ruby here. Has he mastered Insomnia? He's very close to mastering it. I'm thinking that if we have another one of the confusion resistance items, then that is probably worth throwing on here. Except I'm not currently seeing one. So maybe next time we find ourselves by one of those save crystals, that seems like that would be a worthwhile endeavor to put that on. Otherwise, we could try putting on blindness immunity, which he's not yet learned with bright eyes. Don't know how many enemies around here are going to be trying to make us go blind, but also some question as to what we might want to get rid of. Suppose 10% NP is not the end of the world if we no longer have that. Okay, let's take a look at our map as well. And there's actually a dream circle up there, so we could go back to Lifewood rather than Dreamwood. However, let's pick up these chests over here first. Get some Alchemist Fire. Okay, so we could deal some fire damage. Donovan doesn't really need that, but maybe Vern could use it. He would not otherwise have access to fire damage, and Ether Essence, also something that's been kind of hard to pick up. And Ether, for some MP restoration. So Lar theoretically could use Spirit Grafts at any point in time to boost people's MP. So for that reason, I think it probably makes more sense on Vern. And are those our 3 chests? They are. Okay, so let's head over to the Dream Circle as soon as we take this guy out. He does go first. It does target Donovan. I think we found... Oh, that's the wrong spell, though. I was going to say, I think we found that this can be a fairly easy fight if Solar uses the correct skill. However, that was not the case this time. How are the other elements against this guy? Not great. We could opt for Flame here, or we could just double-check as to what we have on our physical reactions. Yes, we are still on Soul Strike, so we are having Fire Elemental attacks with Donovan. Still nearly enough to take this guy out. And the evasion, though, does make it quite difficult to land those hits. So, less Mardek hits here. We'll get the chance to take another turn. Solar, it's tempting to say, yeah, let's not get too crazy here. Let's use the Solar Flare. I was going to say, well, it has so little HP right now. Do we really have to use the Solar Flare? Even if Solar misses, everyone else still gets a chance to take a turn. Probably land a hit, but why take our chances, right? Play it a little bit safer. Just in case we find ourselves in another tricky fight later, and... Okay, so now we've transitioned from Dreamwood into Lifewood, and you see here, we would not be able to access this area directly through Lifewood. It is only via Dreamwood that we can get over here at all, and only via Dreamwood that we'd be able to leave. As for enemies over here, it does seem like they're the same types of enemies we would have found in other areas in Lifewood. Some poisons, that is unfortunate. Green souls, I think that's another Solar Flare target for Solar. Let's go with the one with more HP. So one down, but the other one will take a turn and attack Solar. The flames, I have to double check. I think the green souls are at least weaker to fire. And they are weaker to magic defense, so I think that means flame is probably the way to go with Donovan here. Still not enough, though. Oh, however, I'm pretty sure we established that at least Mardek can take out the green souls in one hit. Vern possibly with, say, a Smite Evil or something to make it light elemental. So it might have been best to have Donovan target one of the Leaf Stingers instead, but we're learning here. Learning what the best setup is with this group. Otherwise, would we rather prioritize a Leaf Stinger or another Green Soul? I think we go Leaf Stingers because they go a little bit before the Green Soul. Solar could take out the Green Soul before its next turn. Yeah, so let's take out Leaf Stinger. That should be pretty fair game. Pretty much guaranteed these guys will take him out in one hit, unless they miss, but they don't have extra evasion, so unlikely for that to happen. Solar Flare on this guy. Okay. Not too bad. But we did also have Donovan level up recently. We should double check if he has any additional room to take on more skills in other areas. We're looking at his passive area, but anything on magic defense? We could improve minus 30% magic damage to, say, fire or dark specifically. However, I'm not sure we're seeing much in the way of fire or dark damage here, so let's keep it with the generic minus 30. Not much on the offensive side with the spells. Still working on physical defensive reactions, and can't throw on Degeneration unless we got rid of, say, both Soul Strike and 10% damage, which is probably not worthwhile. Some question as to whether Soul Strike is better or not. Let's leave it on for the time being, and then we can deliberately not hit our reactions if we feel like the circumstances are such that we would prefer to have a physical attack, and we do have people who are poisoned and or damaged, so we could probably throw on a heal, say on Solar, and then a remove taint on Vern. That should be enough. And then, are there chests in this area? There are not. It is the Snaking Glade, notably, whatever that means. Of course, it's not where the serpent is, because we saw that previously. There's a saved crystal. Okay. Oh, there's a large building. Hold on. Let us save. Let us speak to this fairy here.
The forest is large. I can help you travel to places you've been.
Okay, so that is very helpful. We can teleport back here, I would suppose. Otherwise, we can go to the entrance or the Earth Temple. So this is basically one of the corners of Lifewood that we've not yet been to, and it is, as you might have suspected.
This door is sealed magically, and it seems to be the only way to get inside. It's a potent sort of divine magic, which usually has specific requirements to bypass, like a password.
Darn it! How are we going to get in, then?
I have no idea. I can see no way other than by finding the password. Somehow. Though I find it very unlikely, perhaps one of our dear allies knows something about this obscure ruin. Or maybe, on our adventures, we'll meet someone who does.
So this is, in fact, the Lost Monastery that Vern has been looking for. And yeah, it looks like it's maybe seen some better days, but pretty big place. Probably something of note in here. However, we don't know the password, so not gonna work out this time. So for that reason, I think we have basically done everything in Lifewood that there is to do, at least at this point in time. We, of course, will want to come back here when we do know the password, and also check back in with the Bandit Chief when we have the other half of the key to the Earth Temple. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we don't want to after all. You know, is he really a good guy? Is he not really a good guy? I'll leave that up to you guys. But I think we probably do want to head back to the entrance, and we can, yes, just teleport straight to it, because that means that we can now leave Lifewood, because like I said, we are, for all intents and purposes, done here. And I think that we have picked up one additional artifact that we could turn in at the Curator. So, let's make a point of doing that before we forget. He's over in this area of town. Could even see if, say, there are other items we could pick up at the shop, because we saw that there were a bunch previously and we weren't able to afford many of them. And we presumably will be able to sell this for a little bit of gold pieces.
An ancient rune stone, eh? Its magic has clearly run dry, yet it would still serve as a nice display piece to educate people as to what these things are. It's not very valuable, but I still wish to buy it from you.
Actually, I would believe it is extremely valuable. We are the only people who are capable of giving it to you, so you should pay us an arm and a leg for it. Only 900 gold? No! Alright, but
it's no use to you and deeply interesting to me, so we both win. Do we have a deal?
I suppose so.
Thanks a lot, sir. You've made my life just a little bit better, and I'm sure the visitors will love ogling it, too. You've brought me 5 artifacts so far. Great! But I'd still like more, if you can find any.
Okay, here are a list of artifacts. No problem. Good to see. Of course, it would be nice if we got a little more in the way of coins from it, but we're still over 100,000 at this point, so I feel like we should double check as to what exactly we were and were not able to buy last time we were in Aeropolis, because I think we did get the air staff from the weapons shop, but there were several other things, namely an air sword I don't think we managed to pick up, maybe even some armors as well. I think a double sword for Zack, as well as, over here in the magic shop, we were not able to pick up any of the stoles, because we couldn't afford any of them. I think we looked at these after we looked at the weapon shop, and therefore we were already broke at that point. Here is the other Candriathope, the one that I was talking about earlier, because we did pick one up recently on our adventures, but we could purchase one outright from the shop here, which at some point would be a good idea, because again, it is a valuable crafting material, and there are only a limited amount of them in the game. So at some point we'll want it. I think for the most part, we're probably fine with the one that we have right now if we want to just focus on mastering the plus 20% XP. However, as I think I mentioned briefly, stoles here are actually the only item that you can put on Solar in the chestplate slot. So, that is very significant, especially if we're going to be using Solar for the foreseeable future, because we'd like to have some kind of armor on. And so as a reminder, we have the spirit ones that give defense, magic defense, and spirit, depending on how high level one you take. Similar for vitality and for strength. So it's mostly a matter of what would you prefer to put on. And Solar is a powerful spellcaster, so spirit would of course help in that way. However, Solar also doesn't have a lot of HP, so getting some additional vitality could be useful as well. Basically, all these things are pretty darn useful, and what with Solar having a very limited amount of stoles and chest plates that they can use, does mean that at some point we're probably going to want to get all these. However, look at the price. 68,000 gold pieces. So, for the moment, only able to afford one, unless if maybe, can we sell all of our bone axes? They're worth 500 apiece. It's something, but would have liked for it to have been a little bit more, perhaps. Seeing as how we picked up a bazillion of them. And we may even have more in other people's inventory spaces, but as for right now, yeah, let's pick up, say, maybe the spirit one. I think it's a little bit of a higher risk, high return option. It will make Solar more powerful with spells and healing. However, not going to help us at all with regard to keeping Solar alive, which is maybe the safer route for us to take. So at some point, we'll want to make a point of picking up the Vitality version as well. But that does mean that Solar can also learn the +3 Spirit skill, that the moment Solar is still working on Resist Ether and Insomnia, somewhat close to both of these, so maybe this can wait for the time being, because the item itself is still giving +6 Spirit, so we saw Solar's MP went way up, and like I said, damage with spells and healing will be more effective as well. We can take a look at the weapon shop as well, see what else, if anything, we can afford, but after spending a lot, might not be too much. Okay, the scimitar, I'm pretty sure we did not manage to purchase last time. I think the only thing we ended up picking up was the air staff. Maybe also the mighty axe or the desert spear. Some of these things wouldn't be terrible if we picked up a second, because, of course, this is a sword, and both Mardek and Vern can use swords. Similar with the spear, both Donovan and Charlotte can use that. The axe and the double sword, less so the case for those, because we only have one person who can use those type of weapons. So, maybe worth double checking there, but I think we actually do have more coins than I would have expected at this point. Or at least these were not quite as expensive as I remember them being. So, I think we're in the clear to pick up probably one of each. I'm positive that we have at least one of the air staffs, so that's fine. Let's make sure we take one of everything that we do not yet have, though. Which means that we could throw on a scimitar on, say, Vern, who I think is now done, yeah, with all the skills on the Xanthusian scimitar. So this would have higher base damage, going from 33 to 36. Still 10% crit chance, which is a really high base amount of crit. Is effective against Earth, so it would have been really nice in Lifewood just now. And +1 agility is a nice little bonus, I suppose. So let's throw that on. And then in addition to that, we could throw on the Desert Spear on Donovan for a new burn ability, and also higher damage, going from 30 to 32. So we'll try that out. And then this, of course, being an axe, would be for Slinik. This being a double sword would be for Zach. So we'll hold on to that for the time being. Anything else we want to make a point of picking up here? I think those were the big things. Could check the armor shop next door, but I think we're probably at this point not going to have enough money to get anything here. Can double check though. Yeah. We did already buy an iron armor, I do remember that. Could buy a gold shield, but I don't really think we need that either. Which actually reminds me, I picked up an additional kite shield back when we were in Saul's area. I think it was in between episodes, and I might not have mentioned it. Ultimately, this will be something that we're going to want to use as a crafting material. And in fact, we might want to do that right now. It is, at the very least, though, at least a 1 defense upgrade over the bronze shield that Vern was using previously. but we will probably want to turn this into another one of the Shields of Light or Shields of Darkness that we've not yet created, which would be something at the blacksmith in Xanthusia. The other thing is, I thought that we had a chest a little while ago that dropped a new type of shield that we have not yet put on Mardek or Vern. So let's maybe go to item storage and make sure that we pick that up so that someone has the opportunity to learn any skills that there might be on that. But it's probably on someone who is no longer actively in the party. Yes, Elian here. It's the Rune Shield. 1 defense, but 5 magic defense. It's a wooden shield engraved with magical runes. It's not too useful against physical strikes, but it wards magic quite well. Yeah, 5 magic defense is a lot. Gives magic shield, which is the active skill that Mardek can learn. We've learned it already, but also minus 20% magic damage. That is, I think, fairly difficult to get on many of the more physical characters, so that could be useful. Not sure Vern has that yet. Mardek might not have it either. And there's Thalma Elemental, which is basically the opposite of generic physical. So we could put this on Vern because the Kite Shield is not currently doing anything for him other than just having somewhat higher physical defense. And we can verify as to whether Vern has access to that skill yet. Does not, and he has the RP to throw it on, so seems like a good fit. Sure. Okay. So let's do that, and maybe we'll make a point of heading over to Xanthusia real quick in order to craft that Dark Shield. And with that, we can give Mardek a new shield with a new skill. That means, of course, going to the Sun Temple, and then in the Sun Temple, we can use the portal that will send us straight to Xanthusia. It's our little shortcut, so that we don't have to go back through the temple itself. I would not recommend doing that, although, of course, we did do it on one previous occasion for this very purpose. This is the way to go, though. So, what we're going to need is definitely that shield. I believe it is also Dark Essence, and we have plenty of it here, so I think that's it. Let's double check, of course, at the blacksmith himself. I'm a blacksmith. I can forge equipment for you, if you bring me the right components. So this is what I have in mind here. 1 Kite Shield, 1 Dark Essence. Sure. So the Dark Essence, of course, we've gotten a bunch of these from the Dark Temple, first and foremost. The Kite Shields, you get 1 of them. The original one we got was from a chest in the Sandflow Caves, and that is how we ultimately ended up creating the Shield of Light that Mardek has been using for a while now. But other than that, it is only the fallen soldiers in Saul's basement that have, I think it is a 5% chance of dropping them. So it does take a little bit of grinding in there to make it happen, but I think it's very worthwhile, because this is a strong shield. It's, of course, basically the dark counterpart to the Shield of Light that Mardek is using right now. Pre-defense through magic defense, in both cases. This one gives both the physical and magical minus 50% dark reaction. And so Vern, I don't think, has yet had the chance to use the Black Hat, which would, of course, be another source of the magic dark resistance reaction. So, I know we were just putting on the Rune Shield. Yeah, maybe for that reason. We'll leave that on Vern and give Mardek the chance to use the Shield of Darkness, which he'll already have the magic reaction for, but not the physical one, so that's still useful. Let's make a point of putting that on here. So yes, he's not yet mastered that. Would mean we'd have to move some things around. Damage Soak is not exactly all that great, so we could take that off, and we need 2 more RP, meaning we could either take off a generic 20% damage or evasion 20%. I don't know. If you're poison, evasion? Not sure that it makes that much of a difference. As for Vern, I think we just swapped around some of your items briefly, so let's make sure we put back on that magic defensive reaction there. Okay. And we did also see that I believe we could create another one of the Rune Shields that we... Well, actually, Rune Shield and Rune Shield Plus, notably. I did not realize that this is actually an upgraded version of the shield that Vern just threw on, and the shield that Vern just threw on is in fact a component to creating this upgraded version. So let's check out the difference. It has 1 defense, 10 magic defense. That is humongous. compared to the 5 that this one had, which was already a lot. So it's an improved version of the rune shield. It offers greater protection against magic. It costs a rune shield and a M rune stone, which I believe we picked up in Aeropolis our first go round. Right here we have one, so we could make this right now. However, I think that it might be somewhat difficult to get these rune shields. I don't recall as to how we actually got this original one. No, it was from a chest in the Serpent's Cave. However, there may not be any enemies that drop them. There's one in Saul's dungeon, again. Seems to be that's the place where all the important items drop. Where there are enemies that hold a similar shield to this. It might actually be the glyph shield, though. And so I don't know if they have a chance to drop it, or if that's just merely a coincidence that they happen to be holding this item. So for that reason, what I'm getting at is, I think it makes sense for us to first make sure that both Vern and Mardek get the chance to master this reaction here, the magic defensive reaction. And then, once we've done that, we no longer have any reason to have the weaker version of the shield. Then we can upgrade it, get a new defensive reaction, and just the higher magic defense. So we'll hold off there, and let's check out the glyph shield, because we might have stuff we need for this. In fact, I think we only have one jade right now, so I'm a little bit reluctant to make this at the moment, but I'm almost positive that we have a wooden shield for sure. Fire opal, we've seen many of those. Aquamarine, I think we picked up several in the Serpent's Cave. We have many topazes. The jade is, the limited one where it gives +1 vitality, and I know that at least for a moment we had it on Sharla, but I don't think we picked up any since then, so I'd like to still have at least one in our inventory so that we don't use our last one creating this item here. So then, other things, there is the M helm here, which is notable because 6 defense is huge. 3 magic defense, not bad as well. On a helmet, that's a ton. It's a golden helmet fashioned specifically for Mardek. The M-shaped visor looks sort of silly, but Mardek insists on it because he doesn't take life too seriously anyway and thinks it's rather fitting. On his head, get it? Never mind. Other than that, it, in terms of skills, gives a magic offensive reaction, interestingly, and bright eyes, which he has learned, although there was that suspicion of, does Mardek have glowing white eyes now that Roth has been possessing him for a while? And maybe that is just reaffirming that suspicion. It is only usable by Mardek, but in addition to those defenses, also gives +1 to all attributes and resistance to light. It is extremely good. However, it uses gold ore, which is limited in nature. Light essence, I think we've been able to get that fairly consistently. Candriathope, limited in nature, not enough to be able to craft everything that uses a Candriathope. And golden conch might be kind of similar to that. I know we have at least one at the moment. I don't know if you can get as many of these as you'd like, or if there is only a certain amount that are available to you. So this is one of those items. It's fantastic if you can create it. However, by making this, you are locking yourself out of taking other items that use things like gold ore or Candriathopes. So although I'm pretty sure we have these at the moment, let's maybe hold off just a little while longer. However, have we yet created a blood sword? Because I know that we have shadow blades, and I know we have blood opals. In fact, I know we have them in our inventory right now. So let's make one. This is, again, one of those items that the enemies in Saul's dungeon did have. It has 30 base attack, which at this point is actually a little bit lower than what we're seeing on Mardek and Vern's swords. Not a ton, at least not in Mardek's case, but the sword we just picked up for Vern is actually a fair bit stronger. It's a dark evil sword with vampiric properties. It sucks the blood from the wounds it causes and uses it to heal the wielder. It has Drain HP, which is the same type of skill that we were getting from the Blood Opal. So I know that I think we did previously have one Blood Opal and a Shadow Blade, but I did not want to craft this sword just yet because we didn't have many of the Blood Opals yet, so I wanted to make sure we still had those available to us. So we have one left over, at least one. And we still have this sword here now, which has the more normal 3% crit chance. I know we've been spoiled a bit by many swords with base 10 crit chance. The notable thing about this, though, is that it is ineffective against undead, but drains HP, and doesn't say exactly how much there, but I think it is actually 100%. I think it is all the damage that you deal, you are draining back to yourself as HP. So it is truly vampiric in nature. Lower damage, yes, but might there be some circumstances in which it might be helpful? Probably. I mean, if we were making a point of dealing dark damage, then that might be enough in and of itself. But just playing it safe, leeching a bunch of life, could be good too. Okay, and other than that, I think those were the big things that I wanted to make sure that we did before heading out, because eventually, we head back through here. I think now that we have, of course, cleared out what we can clear out in Lifewood, next on our list will be, well, we've gone to Europolis as well. Is there anything in the southern continent that we still want to do? Because, of course, we want to make sure we do as much in the southern continent as possible, because we want to limit the amount of times that we go back and forth over the warport. We have all of the ingredients for the underwater breathing potion, so we could go back in Soothwood to actually create that potion. So that is definitely something we'll want to do soon. However, because we want to limit the amount of times we go back and forth here, let's make a point of maybe, first and foremost, going to the volcano, where we have reason to believe that there might in fact be the fire crystal. At least that's what the shaman from Europolis said. But anyways, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here. So I will see you guys all next time, and we'll see what exactly is in this volcano. Only time will tell.